Then we are going to start.
All right.
Um, oh, 1 second. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the advisory committee meeting of Thursday, October 9th. We have two items on the agenda for tonight. Both warrant articles, a discussion of warrant article 14, contact information for public officials, and warrant article 16, resolution regarding a women's professional basketball franchise. If there are any members of the public who wish to comment on either of these issues before we start, drop your name in the chat and we will call on you. And seeing none,
yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
think it's
who's
just
giving
petitioners.
who's giving the subcommittee report on 14.
Margaret.
Okay, go ahead, Margaret.
Realized I was on mute. Oh, okay. I don't know why my camera's not working. Oh, well.
Yeah, you look sort of like a tunnel.
Margaret, can you also send me a copy of that report? I'd love to see it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, can you go to the website and download it? That's probably a little bit. There's a lot of attachments. Because I attached all the stuff you guys sent me, but I can also email
I
it.
really can't do more than this device, so no. I'll do it later if you send it to me, attach it to me.
The report, and then all the attachments are. It's basically what you guys sent us. All right. Really don't know if my camera isn't working. Oh, well, I'll just turn it off.
Yeah, don't worry about your camera. Just
All right, go ahead and start.
yes, please.
Margaret, do you have a cover over your camera hole?
I don't have a cover over it. I am using an external camera though. Maybe that's why it's being there. Okay. So warrant article 14, this is a resolution requiring that the identities and contact information for all elected town officials, including town constables, be prominently listed on the town's website, be made available at the town clerk's office immediately upon request. The subcommittee voted 4-0 to recommend favorable action on a revised version of Article 14, including an amendment. So what this article effectively seeks to do is to ensure transparency and public accessibility, to basically require that the contact information and the names of all elected town officials, including constables, be listed on the town of Brookline's website and be made available in the town clerk's office. The challenges that have existed here is that from what we understand, the town constable information was available on the town website until about 2021. And what the petitioners learned upon going to the town clerk's office is that the town council believed that there may have been a potential conflict of interest because town constables are effectively a private business, similar to a notary. The thought was that perhaps it may have been not appropriate to list their information on the town website. And so it was removed a few years ago. However, in one of the attachments that you'll see on the report from the town clerk, the town council no longer is defending that thought process. And because town constables are elected, has agreed to post their information online. So the main argument of this petition is effectively that the elected officials of Brookline are public servants. They're elected. Their information should be readily accessible to anybody who needs that information. And since we are all online now, our town website should be the ideal place to post that information, just the way we have select board members and town meeting members information available. There was some back and forth with the town clerk's office. I mentioned the conflict of interest law, and then apparently there was also some challenge when going to the town clerk's office and successfully receiving that information. We haven't quite resolved what may have caused that, but as we mentioned, the town clerk now says they're going to post it online. And so hopefully that should no longer be a challenge. In the subcommittee meeting about this, it was generally agreed upon that this is a challenge of transparency, and this was a valid concern. And so the information should be available online and should also be available through the town clerk's office. Voting yes on this would basically express town meeting's desire that this contact information, as defined by the approved amendment, which we'll get into last, should be prominently available on the website and be made available by the town clerk's office, available upon request. If voting no would basically leave the status quo, which essentially would mean that it would be open to interpretation by our current and future town council, whether or not such elected official information should be available online. There's no financial impact, and town council has confirmed no legal impact. Getting into the amendment that was proposed, the warrant article as proposed did not define contact information. And so the amendment that I proposed essentially puts in one sentence fragment to say contact information to be defined as first and last name, phone number, email address, and the date of expiration of term. The only question around that would be, should constable or any elected official's home address be posted, to which I believe that should not be a requirement as part of this warrant article. It should be at least limited to first and last name, phone number, email, and date of expiration of term. And it was viewed as a friendly amendment by the petitioners. Language was approved by the town moderator. And so that's the only difference between the warrant article as written and the amendment. It's just that definition of contact information. Any questions?
So before we go on to any questions or comments from the committee, so first, thank you, Margaret. That was your first subcommittee report, correct? Everybody should applaud. Very nice work. And petitioner, Ms. Frawley, do you have anything to add before we go on to questions or comments?
Yes, I'd like to have a little different perspective. It's been 5 years, almost exactly 5 years since constables were listed. They were never notified that they were not online, and people don't generally Google themselves. At least I don't, and the others hadn't. It was discovered last January by one of the constables, and we did make an effort to have it corrected. And we were told that town council legally said no. We are not private contractors exclusive. We actually were, in 1971, were declared special municipal employees, and that does go to the heart of conflict of interest. That's why they do a special employee. But I've also gone and been cleared by the Ethics Commission, the State Ethics Commission. It's not a conflict of interest for anybody, any of the constables. But this article is not just about constables, because if you can remove one category of elected officials so that the electorate cannot find them anyway, any which way, couldn't go to the clerk's office and get the answers. They were forbidden to give it. If that's the case, they could arbitrate without a legal foundation, and we did try to get a legal foundation, and we were ignored. So what's to stop it from happening another time to some other either elected officials or individual officials? Meaning it could be an abuse kind of thing where people can say, I just don't want, so I don't like so-and-so, I'm going to keep them off individually. And that's just not who we are, and that's not what elected officials are all about. I surrendered to Margaret's insistence about the address, but I don't agree with her. So it's fairly friendly, but I still think that it's not really a good idea not to put the address, because people have different modal ways of reaching out to their elected officials, whether they're selectmen, no matter who you are. Sometimes people prefer to send a letter, because we often say, sign a letter, sign a petition, that kind of thing. And where you're going to mail it if you don't have people's addresses? So it really is not something I particularly support, but I wasn't going to fall on that sword either. But this is about all the elected officials in town. And the other thing that was raised to me, why should town meeting members have their addresses online? Because they can be found on the town website. It's kind of one of those, for me, it's one of those Animal Farm moments. If we're going to do the top officials and let them not have to have their addresses there, then we're all equal, only some more equal than others. And that's troublesome to me, because every one of us seeks their vote. Our addresses are on the ballots, every single one of us. It just seems like it's a kind of elitism, protecting people who maybe just don't want to be bothered with the people who vote for them. Make it harder for them to be reached. I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't. If you're talking only about constables, they also provide a service that the public is entitled and legally need to use and access, and they haven't been able to for 5 years. And it's been 10 months since we brought it to the attention of the clerk. So it really is a mysterious kind of thing. Why is it not just happening? Why just a few weeks ago when I went to the clerk's office, they said, we're not allowed to give you that list. You have to get it strictly from the town clerk. And that makes no sense. Either it's legal or it isn't. So if it's illegal in the eyes of the clerk, he shouldn't even give it to us when we ask him. So there's a lot of stuff here that Margaret did allude to that we don't have answers for, explanations for, but here we are. We're here, and I'm hoping rather than to sit around and complain about things, just fix it. It's an easy fix, very easy fix, and frankly, I don't know why it hasn't been done already. If
All right, thank you,
anybody has a
Regina.
question for me,
Right,
Right.
we'll go on to questions and or comments from the body. Harry?
Well, so I put my name on the list first. I'm going to sound like a broken record, and this has nothing to do with the petitioners. Why are we wasting our time on this? Once again, it seems to have all been caused by a combination of an opinion by town council with which I do not agree, and the intransigence of the clerk's office. This is absolutely ridiculous. Other towns list these people, they list their phone numbers, they list contact information. They don't have a problem doing it. And frankly, as Regina said, at this point in time, it should have been done last week. There's no reason why this needs to be moved before town meeting, or town meeting needs to waste its time, or the advisory committee needs to waste its time. The clerk and the town administrator ought to get together and just do it. And I really, this is a relatively light warrant this year, but I really resent the intrusion on people's time by wasting it on things like this where there's absolutely no need to do it. Margaret.
Harry, thank you. That was what we spent a lot of time talking about in subcommittee as well. There was a line in the warrant article about how calls to the town clerk's office weren't being returned. In my mind, this didn't really seem like a policy issue, but almost more of an operational issue. You guys have all been around a bit longer than I have. So if this is an operational issue, our warrant article is always the best way to solve them. To me, that seemed to be a bigger question. And just to respond to something else that Regina mentioned earlier, about, well, why are town meeting members' addresses posted? I would recommend that those not be mandated as being posted either. I don't understand why anyone needs to know my home address to ask me anything about town meeting. You can email me, you can call me. There's so many ways to contact. I have a Facebook page for my campaign. I would find it honestly a little bit menacing if someone showed up at my home. And one thing we talked about was this, in this era of, quite frankly, like political violence, do we really need everyone's home address being posted online? And so that's why I put in the definition of, if we're going to make a warrant article mandating contact information be available, which of course it should be, people should always be able to contact you, you're elected official, does that minimum necessary standard need to be addressed? And so I would argue no. If we're going to put forward this language, the minimum necessary standard should not be home address. I come from the healthcare world. When you deal with HIPAA, they always say minimum necessary standard. You only transport health information as minimum necessary to actually complete patient care. To be a good elected official, do you need to know my home address? I would argue no. HIPAA minimum necessary standard don't include home address by default.
Thank you, Margaret. Kelly Hardebeck.
Thanks, Harry. My question is, at this point, having gone through the town's website, could somebody verify, maybe from the subcommittee or the petitioners, verify that it's only town constables' contact information that's not posted? Because indeed, as a town meeting member, an advisory committee member, my contact information is out there. And I'd like to understand if this solely relates to constables.
I'm not sure we have an answer, Kelly.
is town council here or the town clerk?
I think the reason that, we don't know why Pat, we believe it was Pat Ward that took these off. But town council obviously felt that there was some sort of uh, uh, official endorsement of what essentially could be construed as a commercial activity. And that's why I believe, used the term conflict of interest. Some people run businesses, they have personal websites, and I think what town council has now decided, and I believe correctly so. By the way, Harry, I'm with you on this. But I actually voted on this one, where I normally don't vote on resolutions because it is related directly to the town. And the fact is that if we had not had this article put forward, this issue might never have seen the light of day. I think town council has erred on the side of conservatism to the extreme in many situations, and I do believe that most other, if not all other elected officials have all their information online. There is an Excel spreadsheet, under town meeting that has everyone's name, address, phone numbers, emails. And look, obviously you can go to the assessor's office and download all the all the information there and get people's names and addresses as well. So you can go to the voting rolls and get all that information. I do want to emphasize that this covers elected officials. Okay. It does. So the language that is in here, if passed by town meeting, would impact elected officials. By definition, I believe, town meeting members are not officials. So you could have a situation where town meeting members would continue to have their addresses posted, but not, select board, constables, school committee. And I think that's going to be the rub at town meeting with this particular change.
And honestly, thanks, Cliff. That was my follow-up question, because elected officials is not defined in this particular resolution. And so I was looking for perhaps a clear definition of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at that Excel spreadsheet, one of the constables, Joseph Figler, is not a town meeting member. His name is on that spreadsheet, but the only information next to him is EO, elected official, in parentheses, but not any of his other information, which is interesting because he did have to provide it in order to run for office. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neil Gordon.
Neil, you're muted.
You're not muted, but there's no sound.
Is that better?
Yes.
It is.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I think everybody on this call knows I'm a Brookline constable. I'm going to deny any conflict of interest related to having my name and contact information on the town website or otherwise by the town. Last night's conversation, while it was inconsequential, we took a lot of time talking about hyphens. At least that was a balanced argument, as inconsequential as it might be, of whether you have hyphens or don't. That seemed to me to be a 50-50. This one is ridiculous, right? That this has to come to town meeting is forced by an untenable, undefensible position that somehow you can't put the name and contact information of duly elected officials on the town website, right? So my name and Regina's name and the other constables, they're on the ballot. It says constable, and so on, right? It's on the ballot. It's also on the list leading up to election in the clerk's office. I want to say one thing in defense of the clerk. I had this conversation with him. Ben Kaufman was relying on advice of counsel. Under the state conflict of interest law, a municipal employee providing endorsement of a private enterprise business, that is the violating party under the conflict of interest law. The reason that Ben prohibited his staff from giving that information out was because under advice of counsel, he didn't want to put the staff, if counsel is correct, the staff at risk. His position is, I'll hand out that information and I'll put myself at risk because that's my choice to do that. I make no comment whatsoever about his timeliness in returning phone calls. I don't defend that. He can defend it if it's true. But that was protective of the staff in light of an opinion. Yeah, does this have to come to town meeting as a resolution? Sure, because at some point, where else do you go? I've had many conversations with Chaz Carey about putting constable's contact information on the town website periodically from time to time. By the way, nobody ever came back to me and said, oh, we can't because we have an opinion from council. It was just dead silence. This is the relief you seek. Here we are. I would have liked my last comment. I would have liked anybody in town council's office to get the advice of the AG on this particular issue with respect to conflict of interest, or even better, try it out and have somebody complain to the AG, because I'm pretty sure you'll hear them laughing from Boston to here for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn Murphy.
Thank you, Harry. My recollection is that the prohibition is against recommending certain vendors, but that's a topic for someone else. So my comment relates to the amendment that I believe was made. Am I correct in understanding that there was a proposed amendment that was voted to say that information shall be provided? Is that correct?
The amendment just defined what the information is, I believe.
But doesn't it say shall? I think I have too many things in front of me.
No,
I think it's such
I-
No,
information.
all the amendment says is after the word content information, it says to be defined as first and last name, phone number, email, and date of expiration of term.
Okay, well, maybe I'm mistaken. It struck me there might be a mandate in there.
Right.
And I just wanted to
Shall,
point out.
Shall is part of the warrant article
Yeah.
itself,
Right.
not
Yeah.
part of the
Right.
amendment.
Right.
and it
Okay,
is
I just-
worded like a mandate.
Then, yeah, so just allow me to point out that under the public records law, there are two exemptions that exempt from public disclosure, the home address, personal email address, and home telephone number of a variety of people, including employees of the general court, an agency, executive office, department, board, commission, bureau, division, or authority of the Commonwealth, or political subdivision of the Commonwealth, which would include Brookline, and also the family members of certain individuals. So I guess I suppose there would be a possibility that an elected constable would have a family member. I don't know, might fall under this. So my only suggestion was going to be to suggest may rather than shall, so that the constables who are listed could elect what information they wanted to be published. Thank you.
So just to be clear, the warrant article is not just about constables. It's about all elected officials.
Fair point. So
To
that
resolve
makes it
both.
even more of an issue.
Well, I guess Regina and Neil and all the petitioners, I think that they've already agreed to share that information by becoming constables. Otherwise, how would anybody,
Yes, but their
No, they're-
Margaret, their family members may not have.
if the constable chooses to share their first name, last name, constable, business phone number, and business email address, that's sharing their family's information?
I haven't, well, it could be if they live together, but I don't,
Well, but we're not
I'm
sharing
just-
the address,
I'm just
so
raising
it's
this.
not. I think we're overcomplicating it. I don't think that's, I think
just
that
think
by
the
not
shall-
sharing the address, we're protecting the family members.
So let me just be a little bit more clear. I'm sorry, I have a massive headache from an event yesterday. To the extent there's a mandate that constables share their home email, their home addresses and their personal phone numbers, I'm just suggesting that perhaps that should be changed to may rather than shall. That's all.
Just
So-
to clarify, it's not sharing the home address at all. And the email doesn't have to be, I don't know what a home email is, but it can be your constable business email. But again, just to clarify, the address is not included. So I think family members are safe because you're not sharing a home address or like a home phone number. You would elect a business constable phone number and a business constable email address.
Great, so long as that's allowed under the language. I couldn't figure it out in the
Yes,
last 5
That
minutes.
is, yeah, the language just says phone number. It does not say home. It says email address, does not imply family email address. And then the word address is not included at all on purpose. So there's no mention of like a home address at all. In this definition of contact information, it does not even include home address.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Jocelyn, I think if you look at the chat, Lisa has typed in what appears to be the current language
As amended.
as amended.
Okay, terrific, thank you.
Any other comments? Dennis?
Regina, as petitioner, do you have any last words before we move to a motion?
Just to keep in mind that all elected officials should be reachable by their electorate and by anybody they represent, even if they're not citizens, even if they don't vote. They have a right to find the people who run their government or who offer their services. And as somebody said, this is very clearly, as Cliff said, it's about all the elected officials. Today, it might be that and we only found out about this problem because it was constables, but it could be some other group tomorrow, and that's not okay. We need to be able to find the people we elect. And by the way, in terms of the address for constables, none of us has objected to having our address. Quite the reverse, we'd like our address on it.
One more comment from Linda Olson-Pelkey. Question.
Yeah, it's a question. Thanks, Harry. So if one of these elected officials wanted to post their address with this amendment, could they?
Yes, in this amendment, the minimum standard doesn't include address, but if an elected official feels so moved, they are not prevented from doing so. This does not prevent anyone from sharing more than they would like to. It simply says that we all have to share a minimum standard of what's in the chat.
It's not,
It doesn't really say that.
doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that you're prevented from sharing address, which is what the
No.
question was. So you're not prevented from sharing address, but the minimum standard
But
is.
it's defined and it doesn't
Yeah.
include the address.
But it's defined,
would that-
but it's defined as what the town, by the way.
So
Any-
Linda, you're also implying that you couldn't include your middle name either. And I think,
Right.
I
No.
don't think that's that's not how I would read it, I guess is what I'm saying. Sorry, Cliff, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to make a couple of comments. First, this is not a bylaw, right? And so let's be pragmatic that in the future, a different town council might come up with a different logic and we could be back in the same boat again. But I think this language is defining, as Margaret said, what the town quote unquote has to do. It's town meetings, it's the will of town meeting, it's not a bylaw, what it has to do. it's not stopping anyone from saying, gee, okay, you can post that, but I'd also like my address. I do not see that any language prohibiting that at all. And by the way, if you wanted to make a motion to amend this and insert the words at a minimum,
Yes, that's exactly what I want to do.
my sense is that the moderator would probably accept that because he accepted our inclusion of a definition, which hadn't been there before. So,
Which might have been considered an expansion of the scope, but they didn't rule that way. So yeah, I think it just would be clearer if it said as a minimum.
I hope all of this problem will be promulgated with the town meeting members, etc., who might not be happy if their address is removed. It should be more of an opt-out rather than an opt-in. And the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you'd have to opt in to say, I want my address there. It should be the other way.
Fran?
So I'm a rather practical person, and if the things we listed are the minimum that are on the website, is the town really going to have another line for optional address? So I wonder if it would have the option. And second, I wish it would include town meeting members. I'm sorry. If you can, if you don't use the internet, you can telephone. You have people's emails. I don't want my address there. The 2 days after my name went up and with my email as town meeting member, I started getting 20 spams a day. And yes, all of our information can be found, but why put it in one place and make it easy?
so let me just,
To be fair, most of those were asking you to send gift cards to me. So
yeah.
So you're my Nigerian prince?
that's correct.
So Fran, I think expanding this from elected officials to include town meeting members who are elected but quote unquote not officials would be an expansion.
An expansion of scope, yes.
Oh yeah,
so,
I understand that.
Yeah.
But,
so I mean, but that's a warrant article that could come up in the spring if you were so inclined.
Neil Gordon.
Yeah, thank you. So available at no charge in the town clerk's office is this, if you can see it.
No,
Nope.
we can't.
Well, you can't.
You have to turn up your background.
Yeah, you have to turn off the background. Anyway, it's the list of elected town officers, advisory committee members, executive officers, town meeting members association. It's published by Ben Kaufman, the town clerk. It's yellow. Thank you, Fran. Right now, it includes town meeting members, select board members, library trustees, you name it. It's in here. If you've been elected, it's precinct, name, first and last, phone number, email address, and zip code. If we start with opt-in, opt-out, I'll just suggest that we're adding a burden to the town clerk's office that was not anticipated. Susan, that's the old one, unless you got like a custom.
Yeah, I've got that one too.
I mean, it's all out there. I don't know.
The Excel,
I'm just gonna say it's all out there.
Yeah, the Excel spreadsheet that Elise posted is on the town website in the town meeting page. And so again, this information does exist already. It's just a question of whether or not there's a better way to present it, I think. Right?
Yeah,
I would like us to focus on the resolution at hand.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the constables are posted somewhere else besides that buried list on the town meeting member thing? No.
Nope.
Not
No,
now.
that's the problem.
No,
That's the
they are
problem.
not. No, they are not.
The only other place they're posted is in election results.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with the need for the fix. I just think there should be some flexibility in having, if someone wanted their address listed.
Can I speak?
Arthur's a petitioner.
Oh, Arthur's a petitioner?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Arthur.
I just want to add that this problem has been with us since January, and the clerk's office has been aware of it since January. And I'm not sure why we've come to this, that we're talking about making some kind of remedy to something that the clerk's office has known for, almost 9 months now.
Yes, your co-petitioners made that point very, very
I'm sorry.
clear.
Sorry.
No. And I think that will end up being a portion of the report that's presented at town meeting. If we're done with questions and comments, I think we're going to move to the motion. I'm assuming that Linda, you're going to propose an amendment once the motion is made.
Can
Yes.
I just add one
Okay.
thing, just to summarize something that I think Arthur was getting at?
Sure,
I
go
couldn't
ahead.
agree more with Harry, and I didn't take it personally, Harry. This should never have had to ever be a waste of anybody's time, most of all my own. But the fact is, we have tried. We tried in January. We tried in March to town council. We were completely royally ignored. I never got a legal reason at all for why they did this. I got no reason, none, no response. So I'm actually going the lowest next common denominator, which is just a non-binding resolution. But this could go much further, and I'm hoping it won't have to. I'm hoping this is the end of it.
I'm hoping it will. Because I say that because it shouldn't have happened. This is
It is perplexing to me why nobody seems, including the reporter, Margaret, nobody seems to have any understanding of why this happened in the first place. And it's a job of investigation to find that out, but we're trying to move on right now.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I posted in the chat what I think Linda was proposing. And I'm hoping that Linda will review that so
Yeah.
that we can. I added the
Well, I
words,
think it
add
might
a
need a
minimum.
couple, I'd throw in a couple commas at, defined comma at a minimum comma.
Oh, I hate extra comments.
I'm a
but
comma person. What can I say? It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not stuck on that, but anybody else have an opinion about the commas?
I noticed that myself, but I wasn't going to say
See,
anything.
yep, Cliff's a comma guy too.
Look, yeah, I agree with Lisa that we can spend the night arguing about M dashes and hyphens and stuff. If you want to rewrite, that's not an Oxford comma. If Margaret, if you want to correct commas as a scrivener's error, if this amendment passes, then go ahead. But we're going to, why don't you make the motion on behalf of the subcommittee, please?
Do I just say, I make a motion on behalf of the subcommittee to?
What you say is the subcommittee moves favorable action on warrant article 14 as amended.
Okay, the subcommittee moves favorable action on subcommittee on warrant article 14 as amended.
Great. And now
And,
Linda is
yeah.
going to make her amendment.
Yeah, I would like to propose to amend the motion to add
At
a minimum after defined and before as.
Second.
Okay, so first we're going to take a vote on that amendment. And if that amendment passes, you know the drill, that amendment passes, it becomes the main motion and we'll vote. And if it fails, we'll go on to the other vote. So this is a vote on the Pelkey amendment. Michael Berger.
Yes.
Ben Birnbaum.
Yes.
Cliff Brown.
Yes.
Anthony Buono.
I don't think he's
Don't think
here.
he's here. Elise Couture Stone.
Absolutely, yes.
John Doggett not here. Harry Friedman,
Yes.
David Mark Goldstein.
I don't think he's
Not
here.
here. Yeah. Hyphenated American. Neil Gordon,
Yes.
Susan Granoff,
Yes.
Perry Grossman,
Yes.
Kelly Hardebeck,
Yes.
Elisa Jonas.
Yes.
Janice is not here. Brian is not here, I believe. Alec is not here. Carol Levin,
Not here.
Liz Linder.
I can't see the amendment, but from what I've heard, I'm inclined to say yes.
It was in the chat.
Yeah, but oh, sorry, is it the one at 7:39?
It's what I posted.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't tell now
Dennis.
because I'm sharing.
Oh, okay. Hold
You
on.
said yes?
Let me just give me a second. Okay. You
I'll
can
come
go
back to you.
Go ahead of me. Yeah.
Pam Lodish,
Not here.
Jocelyn Murphy.
I think Liz is looking for commas, but I voted
I am. No, so yes. I just wanted to make sure I saw it. I'm looking.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Jocelyn.
yes.
Danelle O'Neill,
Not here.
Linda Olson-Pelkey,
Yes.
Fran Perler,
Yes.
David Pollock,
Well, my inclination is to think that this is unnecessary, but all of this is should be unnecessary. So on the margins, I'll say yes.
Carlos Reduejo. I don't hear Carlos, but I thought he was here.
He was here.
All right, well, I'm going to skip. Margaret Robotham.
Yes.
Lee Selwyn is not here. Christine Westfall. She was here.
Yes, I'm here. I just
There you
forgot
are.
to click off mute.
Okay, so
Carlos is here. He's muted as we speak.
all right, well, we're going to go on. As amended,
What was the vote?
it's 17-0. So now we're going to now we're going to vote on the article as amended. Michael
Dennis,
Berger.
why don't you
Yes.
just ask if anyone's changing?
That's true. Is anyone going to change their vote? All right, so then 17-0. It passes. Thank you to the subcommittee, particularly Margaret, for a wonderful report. Thank you to the petitioners. And we will move on to warrant article 16. I don't know who. Yes.
Just Dennis, just a comment, make sure that the select board sees the amendment because they haven't voted yet and they may as well see what
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
saying.
make sure.
Operational question. What do I do with this? Do I just put it in my report?
We'll talk about that, Margaret.
Yeah.
There'll be a different report for the
Got
combined
it.
reports.
Okay, I'll just copy the
Yeah.
language.
There's a whole format for how this works, and you have a little time. Thanks. Who's
Can I ask
presenting?
a question? Can I ask a question?
What's the question?
How does it get submitted as it is, or will you ask for at some point or someone additional changes?
I mean, there may be additional changes proposed elsewhere in the process, but as it stands right now, this would be the motion. This is most likely the motion that would be presented at town meeting as it was amended tonight. The select board, I'm assuming that the select board will not have its own version.
But the petitioners can always, if they insisted,
Correct.
revert to their original if they wanted to.
Correct. And then there'd be competing motions at town meeting.
But Arthur, we were told it was a quote unquote friendly amendment, which means that the petitioners agreed with the amendment when it was made at the subcommittee.
Yeah, they didn't agree with your change just now, but
Right, they didn't. They weren't asked.
They weren't asked. But in any event, this will be the motion, and you have time to decide how you want to proceed at town meeting. Let's move on to warrant article 16. Who is presenting the subcommittee report?
I will do 16.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Regina. Arthur, thank you. Okay, so the Public Safety Subcommittee met and discussed warrant article 16. It's a resolution to encourage bringing a professional women's basketball franchise to Boston. And as explained in the explanations of the warrant articles, the resolution does exactly that. It doesn't do any much more than that. It supports bringing a WNBA franchise to the Boston area. The discussion was relatively straightforward. It included the natural question of why a resolution not specifically related to Brookline. So be it. The more general discussion related to the likelihood of the Boston area actually receiving an expansion franchise, which is not what we're talking about. It is apparently unlikely anytime soon for the Boston area to get an expansion franchise, and hence the urging to support the transfer of an existing franchise to relocate to the Boston area. There were no comments from members of the public, and at the end of that particular meeting, we recommended favorable action on the resolution as printed in the warrant.
Mr. Burstein, do you have anything to add as petitioner before we go to questions and comments?
I think I'll just take questions if you have any. I think the warrant article speaks for itself. I think what was in Neil's report tends to speak for itself. There was maybe I will address the question that did come up about why should Brookline weigh in on this. I do want to point out that we would be joining the city of Boston. Back in July, Boston City Councilor Brian Worrell filed a resolution with the Boston City Council about bringing a WNBA team to the Boston area, and Boston City Council approved it unanimously. I also will tell you that Councilor Worrell is supportive of our resolution here, and I felt it was important enough that Brookline should also step in and weigh in. There is definitely appetite for a WNBA team here in this area. The past 2 summers, the Connecticut Sun has held a game at TD Garden, one of their games, and both times TD Garden sold out completely. So it seems to me that there is definitely an interest in the area to have a team, and I think it would be nice for Brookline to weigh in on this as well.
All right, let's move on to questions or comments.
Jocelyn Murphy.
Thank you, Harry. Michael, I fully understand the thinking behind this, but what occurs to me is when the Olympics were potentially coming from Boston, there was a massive response, I think from one of our own town meeting members, regarding the impact that it would have on the city and potentially Brookline. Have you looked into the impact that such a franchise would have on Brookline? Have you talked to the police chief about, any potential public safety issues or anything in that regard? Thank you.
I have not spoken to anybody about such an impact for a few reasons. One of which is that this would be nowhere near as large an impact as the Olympics would have been. The situation with the Olympics, you may recall, was very different. There was a committee that was formed to try to bring the Olympics to Boston. They came up with a whole plan, which included, we'll use Brookline's facility here, and we'll do this, and we'll do that. And they never came to us. They never said to us in any way, hey, we'd like to use this. Would this be okay? This committee would just assume things on our part. Also, I'm not calling for a WNBA team to come to Brookline. I'm calling for the team to come to the Boston area, specifically in the resolution. The only impact that I can imagine is that should the team end up playing someplace like Agganis Arena, I suppose that could affect Brookline somewhat, possibly in the same way the Red Sox presence at Fenway Park affects us. My guess is that a team that is brought to this area would end up playing at TD Garden, and that would probably impact us very little in a negative way. In a positive way, would be encouraging the greater equality between there's a lot of gender inequality in professional sports right now. I will point out that Boston has many sports teams of men and very few that are known about for women, and the ones that aren't getting as much interest as right now the WNBA is. I would feel that this the committee would probably be hard pressed to name our women's soccer franchise or our women's hockey franchise. My feeling is that the impact we'd have is that if people in Brookline got to see women playing professional basketball at the highest level, that would be a thing to help inspire our young girls and our young boys in many ways. And I'll also point out that when teams are in an area, they tend to run community programs, they tend to do outreach. Right now, the Connecticut Sun, which is the only New England team for the WNBA, is in Uncasville, Connecticut, and they do a lot of these things, and they really reach out to the community. And when they came to TD Garden, they actually ran a whole gym event for girls in Boston, and it's not like it would be only people who live in Boston. The people who live in Brookline would also be able to benefit from this. This would enhance our entire cultural and civic life for the whole region. And remember, we are surrounded on three sides by the city of Boston.
Thank you. I have one last question, and it is this. Does this have anything at all to do with Caitlin Clark?
In what sense? I mean, Caitlin Clark, I've actually read a very interesting book about the Caitlin Clark effect. I forget the title, but it's by a journalist who's following the WNBA. There's a lot of interesting things that happened. Caitlin Clark did create a huge extra groundswell of interest in the WNBA, which I will point out has actually been around for decades, women's professional basketball. And it's true that 2 years ago, when the Connecticut Sun came to TD Garden, they were playing the Indiana Fever. Last year, this year, they were playing the Indiana Fever. And yes, TD Garden sold out, and Caitlin Clark was there. I will point out as possible conflict of interest, self-interest. I don't know. My daughter got a jersey signed by Caitlin Clark at that game. But my kids and I were at the game the summer before, and I don't think anyone here would know who the Connecticut Sun played 2 summers ago. Maybe somebody here knows, but I will tell you it was the Los Angeles Sparks. And although Caitlin Clark, did join the WNBA last year, she was not on the Sparks, and yet Connecticut Sun, Los Angeles Sparks sold out TD Garden in Boston. So I think that Caitlin Clark is a factor in the entire country starting to become more interested in this, but I'm not filing this just because of the so-called Caitlin Clark effect. The main reason I filed this is, as some of you may have heard, I know the subcommittee knows about this, is that the Mohegan tribe that owns the Connecticut Sun put the Sun up for sale. And there was a very good bid from Stephen Pagliuca, I believe is how to pronounce his name, who's one of the minority owners of the Celtics, who wants to bring them to Boston. But the commissioner, who some of you may have heard some stuff about recently, because one of the players had some things to say about her, the commissioner feels that it would be unfair of Boston to jump over some of the other cities, and she wants to have them move to Houston if they're going to move. That would completely remove this type of basketball from all of New England. And I think that would be a shame. So that's why I decided that we should join Boston in Boston City Council in advocating to keep the team in New England.
Thanks, Michael, very much. My question was a little bit tongue in cheek, but Caitlin Clark and many of her teammates are, amazing basketball players. So thanks for your comments.
Well, you're welcome. It may be tongue in cheek, but there is a serious aspect to it. So I did want to actually address it.
Linda Olson-Palke.
Thanks. Hi, Michael. I just was wondering what are you anticipating happens to this resolution if it passes? Because It doesn't say, you know, and the select board will send a letter to the Boston City Council or anything like that. So what's the thinking behind what's going to happen if this passes?
Well, it's true. I don't call on the select board or anyone in town to reach out and specifically tell somebody, yes, we want this to happen. But I honestly would hope to have a little bit of news coverage. You know, I know that when the Connecticut Sun came to TD Garden this summer, there was actually a bunch of major news coverage. WCVB television, I will note, actually interviewed me and one of my kids because we were at the game. But they had a whole story about what was going on with what's happening with Boston. There's a lot of news stories. People may be missing them because they tend to be filed away in the sports and business sections. But, you know, honestly, my hope is that, you know, Brookline News and one or two other places will pick it up, and it will be one more thing that can be passed along as, yes, there's support in Boston for this. And I mean, and I personally, if this passes, will reach out and just send my own letter to, you know, the commissioner and to the Mohegan tribe and say, hey, you know, and also get in touch with Councilor Worrell and say, hey, but Brookline has come in agreement with the Boston City Council on this.
You might want to write a press release.
I might do that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Christine Westfall.
Just a quick kind of informational comment, not necessarily related specifically to this resolution. And that is what we're seeing across the board is an interest in all sports, including women's sports, at a heightened level that's probably directly linked to the increase in sports betting. That's becoming interesting and problematic in a whole number of ways. I'm going to support the resolution, but I think that underlying a lot of the interest right now is the push from sports betting.
Thank you.
Are you looking for a response at all? Or, I mean, I'll tell you.
It's just an informational comment.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I know nothing about what's going on in sports betting. I don't even know if and how people are betting on WNBA teams or not. So,
they're betting on them. Yeah.
Okay. That is completely something I know nothing about.
Yeah. Well, if you're not addicted to it, it's not your problem. But they've gotten to the point now where you can place a bet during a game on who's going to make the next basket. It's just insane.
Thanks, Chris. Elise.
Hi, yes. So I'm curious if within this process, if you have met any opposition to this, and if so, what have been the major tenets of those arguments?
I haven't really met what I consider any significant opposition. The things that came up were, again, at the advisory committee subcommittee had the question of, you know, the perennial question of, should Brookline weigh in on issues that are not Brookline issues? You know, to which I would always point out that, you know, we've done this since the 18th century. And honestly, supporting women's professional sports is consistent with our commitments to equity. I mean, this is something that we talk about in this town a lot, you know, so I think that it's consistent with our commitments to inclusion and an opportunity for women. So I think that, you know, advocating for this falls into something that Brookline does. The Brookline Commission for Women is also looking into possibly supporting this article. The only other argument that I saw against it, again, and I actually mentioned this before, David Mark Goldstein, actually, I think partly in jest, emailed me to his concern that if the Boston women's professional basketball team decided to play their games in Agganis Arena, isn't that going to affect traffic in Brookline? And I mean, my response to that, honestly, is that, you know, I think it's far too soon to think that this resolution is going to cause a major impact of that sort to Brookline. So those were the only two real objection arguments that I'd heard up until this point, and those were my responses.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dennis, that's it for questions and comments.
All right, do you want to have the last word, Michael, before we move to the motion?
Well, I guess I would just say that I do think that this resolution would show that Brookline supports women's sport, professional sports. I think it may be a symbolic, but I think it's a strategic resolution, because when the WNBA has been, evaluating places, and we have this issue with, are they willing to let Boston jump ahead? And if they show, look, Boston has support, for such a team, maybe that will help us bring a team earlier here than currently I'm here in the year 2033. I think our resolution would inspire the next generation, add a voice to a movement that reflects our values. Again, Brookline values, equity, opportunity, and community pride. I mean, I think in the end, this would show that the town of Brookline's excited to see women's basketball on the biggest stage, and this costs us nothing. And I think it would send a very strong message. And I hope the advisory committee will see fit to support this, and then I hope town meeting will see fit to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil, we're ready for a motion.
Yeah, on behalf of the subcommittee, I move a recommendation of favorable action on Article 16 as printed in the warrant.
Great. Let me share my screen. We're voting on the recommendation is for favorable action on warrant Article 16. Michael Berger.
Yes.
Dan Birnbaum.
Yes.
Cliff Brown.
Abstain.
Elise Couture-Stone.
Yes.
Harry Friedman.
Yes.
Neil Gordon.
Yes.
Susan Granoff.
Strong yes.
Perry Grossman.
Yes.
Kelly Hardebeck.
As a woman, a sports fan, and a fan of Ellie, the mascot of New York Liberty, yes.
Elisa Jonas.
Yes.
Liz Linder.
Yes.
Jocelyn Murphy.
Yes.
Linda Olson-Pelkey.
Yes.
Fran Perler.
Definitely yes.
David Pollock.
Yes.
Carlos Ridwejo.
Yes.
Margaret Robotham.
Yes.
Christine Westfall.
Yes.
All right, so by a vote of 17 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention, our recommendation is for favorable action on warrant Article 16. Harry, you want to give an update on, that concludes our business for this week, so you want to give
Sure.
people the update for the next few meetings?
So for next week, no meeting on Tuesday, the 14th. We will be meeting on Thursday, the 16th, Zoom only. And to the best of my knowledge, we will be doing warrant Article 9, the Renter's Handbook, warrant Article 13, resolution on older population / the Fisher Hill property, warrant Article 10, renaming a baseball diamond, and warrant Articles 11 and 12 regarding advisory committee members being on other town committees.
And I received a request to take up warrant Article 13 first, and I see no reason not to honor that. So we can update the notice if we get the chance. Oh yes, Jocelyn, a full suite. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you a week from tonight.
Hey, I want to thank Lisa for posting in the chat. It's really helpful. Thank you for doing
Oh,
that.
Oh, you're
yes.
welcome.
No,
Good night.
good night, everyone.
Night.